Sweet.
All right, countdown.
Alright, everyone. This is Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, the second in a trilogy of collectathon platformers for the PS1. It's also extremely broken, as we'll see here in just a second. I'll be going out of bounds right away. We should talk about the category a little bit. So the title of this category is 40 orb, but a better description would be no boss skips, as we collect every, meet every level item check to fight the final boss. You probably saw me doing some interesting movement there if you're familiar with the game, as casually you would be surprised at how I'm able to do this. It's mainly due to the double jump mechanic. It's called a double jump, but it's not really a double jump. What we do is, if you jump and then charge in midair, the game doesn't quite know where to send Spyro as long as you're not pressing a direction. So it just sends him up a decent amount and you get some good height.
Thanks for helping.
Alright, so now that I've collected 2 of the orbs in this level, I'm just going to go to the end and collect the talisman. The talismans are the end of level collectible for all the levels in the first 2 homeworlds. The third homeworld is the final homeworld, and the end of level collectibles change to the orbs.
This magic.
So, to fight the boss at each homeworld, you need to collect all the... For the first 2 homeworlds, you need to collect all the talismans in each homeworld. And then for the third homeworld, you just need enough orbs. As a matter of fact, the enough is 40. Alright, going into this next level is Idle Springs. One thing about this level that is interesting, it's the first level that we've seen where we'll use a power-up. So I'm going to be killing enemies throughout this level to try to activate that power-up at the end and get an orb. Those guys with the shields, I can't flame them, and the big guys, I can't charge them. So the charge is the thing I'm doing most of the time. Oh, I forgot to jump over here, complex. So I need 8 enemies to activate the power-up at the end of the level. I'm collecting a lot of gems as I go through these levels. Gems are the third type of collectible in the game, I guess you can call them, between the talismans and orbs and gems. Alright. So, I didn't save that last guy who would normally open the door to get me in the talisman room. That's because you don't need to save him. Most of the talisman NPCs in this game will just happily give you the talisman if you talk to them at any point. You do not need to have completed the level in the intended way most of the time. There are 3 exceptions to this rule, and we'll see all of them as I go along.
Look at them.
So I'm going to be doing a challenge to get an orb in the homeworld here. Each of the hub worlds has some orbs in them and 400 gems.
Hi, Spyro.
We collect all of the hub world orbs because they're really convenient to get. Except for this orb that I'm doing right now, none of them are actually require completing a challenge. They're all just sitting out in the open.
Very. Wow.
Alright, I'm about to do another sequence break here with the double jump. So I jumped to that alcove to get the orb. You're supposed to buy the swim power-up, which I'll do here after this level, and then go back to the start of this hub world and swim through and get to that cave. But it's faster not to do that. Nice. Alright, that was no skip. I just went straight through what would have looked like a solid head there, but in reality it's not actually solid, in certain places anyway. What happened is the developers just didn't fill in every area with collision polygons to save on performance. I need to
Oh, thank goodness.
that was a frame perfect pause skip. It's bad because it loses me time. You can press pause to skip cutscenes, and if you press it too early, it'll skip the cutscene and pause. I think it's frame perfect anyway. That's just my assumption. So I'm doing another orb challenge right now. We did a bunch of sequence breaking to start this orb challenge. Almost died there. Let's take this back. There, that should work. So we did the sequence break to start the orb early so that I can go through the level and collect do the orb challenge while I was going through the level normally. Here what I'm trying to do is a wall glide. If you glide along the wall, you can get some extra height, and we used it to get over that jump. Normally you would have to talk to some of the NPCs in this level, and they would sing a little chant, which unfortunately we skip all of them. I kind of like them, so
I thought
I think it's sad, but they would allow you to progress through the level. We just skip through all of those. Nice.
Well done.
Alright, so after this level I'm going to be making our first purchase with these gems. So the gems are used a lot in this game as sort of a progression check. We have to use them to pay money bags, to unlock things like abilities or levels, or to progress through the levels.
Hello there.
So I'm buying swim
Great.
now.
Okay. When
That
you
lets
jump in
me
the water,
swim
you can use
through
the
this
D-pad
water
to
and
move
progress to
around
the second
circle.
half of the hub
Use
world.
square to dive underwater.
Using speed
When you are
strats, we don't
underwater,
actually
use
need
X
to
to
buy
paddle
swim
and square to shoot.
and progress to the second half that way, but in this run, swim is routed in, so we buy it anyway. And actually all three of the hub worlds have an ability that you buy in them to progress to the second half and unlock more levels that way. Alright, so I did a sequence break there just to get to the end of this
Thanks for
challenge.
shutting.
I flamed that button, and now this guy won't give me an orb. Now I'll go out of bounds here to skip to the talisman. Oh. Well, that's never happened to me. Take two. There we go.
Thank you.
And like I said, even though this guy is still trapped inside of this cage, which we'll see here in a minute when I run out of it, he still gives me the talisman anyway. Alright, this is a proxy. Oh, that was a high one. So,
Spyro.
When you can put Spyro in a bad position, one that the game doesn't like.
The next block.
And
Remember
the
to
developers, to solve the issue of Spyro being in a bad spot, they just decided that if he was in that sort of spot, they would give him a boost in whichever direction they deemed the best direction. And we can manipulate that to get a lot of height in certain areas. That would be classified as a scenery proxy because I used the scenery. I manipulated it to get a bunch of height. In this level, there is a different kind of proxy. I guess I don't really know the exact term for it, but it's more like a hitbox proxy or a collision box proxy. There are certain collision boxes in the game that Spyro can charge through, but not glide or walk through. And if we have Spyro charging in the air and you press X to glide, he will glide for 1 frame and then start charging again, as long as you're holding square. So we use that to get in those collision boxes, then we press X and the 1 frame glide launches us out, and then the charge keeps us going. That wasn't quite high enough. There we go. So I use that to skip having to backtrack. Normally there is a ladder there. The casual way would be to progress to the second hub world, buy climb from moneybags, and then come back here and climb that ladder with climb.
So,
But because this is a pretty quick orb, we just use a proxy to get to it instead. I use double jump to skip into the talisman room.
psych.
Alright, so right now I'm going to get a swim in area to collect the rest of the orbs in the hub world, one of which we also need climb for casually. The way swim works in this game isn't like these swims when Spyro is in water. What happens is if you cross the swim plane, you start to swim. And you can manipulate this by crossing the swim planes while Spyro is out of bounds. And then he will be in swim state while out of bounds, and we can swim wherever we want. Here's another example of there being no collision in spots that the developers did not expect you to reach. Just went straight through that ceiling there, even though it looked solid. It's funny that I say that because there are actually exceptions to that rule. I mean, it's not really a rule. There are some spaces that you would think they didn't need to put collision in, that there still is collision there. And sometimes that can annoy us greatly. Here's another proxy coming up.
You mind if I interrupt you for a donation? Real
Yeah,
quick?
go ahead.
So Tony Agba, hope I said your name right, just donated $300. He says, put this towards Clifford and also call an audible on me family. Thank you very much for that generous donation, Tony.
Yeah, thank you. So the observant among you might realize that I was able to talk to that dude, or at the very least, walk up next to him before I did that second proxy to go over the wall and press the button. That's actually one of the 3 exceptions. He needs there to be water there, otherwise he won't give you the talisman. And here I'm just charging into this invisible wall, and it slowly but surely brings us out of bounds.
You did it.
I use that out of bounds to skip a challenge and rescue the seahorse and get this orb. That's actually the 5th seahorse, that's the king, and you're supposed to rescue his sons. But he only cares about rescuing the last one, so the other 4 sons, they're not going to see the light of day. And we got 2 auto-scrollers coming up here. There are plenty of orb challenges in this game that have like an easy challenge and then a hard challenge right after. This is the first example of that I'm doing. I think there's at least 1 or 2 more examples of those in this run. I don't really have anything particularly to talk about during this next auto-scroller if we have any random donations or something. So now that I have collected all the talismans in this first hub world, I'm going to be able to fight the boss. Well, like I said, this is a no boss skips category. The any percent actually skips into every boss. So I could have fought the
Well
boss
done.
before this,
Spyro,
but
jump through that
that's
hole
against the
before
rules
it
for the category. And this boss is pretty interesting as
Before you get to the castle
the entire
dungeon.
boss fight is AI manipulation. So every time that I have him take damage, I do it in a way so that the next damage is going to be the next thing I want. So I flamed him while he was on that spot, and then the rocks fall and damage him, and so he'll walk over here every time. Now I'm going to damage this. That causes him to drop his shield and walk off of the spot. This is desirable because he will walk right back onto the spot, because when he takes damage and he isn't on a spot, he will walk to the closest spot. So yeah, the reason we want him on this spot and not the spot he started on before is that for the third phase, the spots become alternating blue and red, and the blue one is much easier to dodge. In this phase, we dodge the attacks because he walks off the spot on his own. And also, fun fact, these rocks have no collision box. Unfortunately, there's a rock blocking his face. He makes quite the face after he's dead, but you couldn't see.
No!
Alright, this level is Crystal Glacier. It's pretty optimized in terms of the tricks it uses. Casually, there would be 4 checks that you have to do to get through the level and get to the talisman. There's 3 level progression checks. You have to flame these guys to progress through the level, but we can manipulate using the double jump, we can get through it. Right here I'm doing what's called a Spyro. You basically double jump while along a slanted wall, and it'll give you height. You use it to you can use it to like sort of glide along slants and to gain height on slants. Oh, I just got trolled by that enemy. Rip.
Do we have time for a quick donation?
Yep.
We've got $10 from Bomono that raises a very important question that I think we're all going to struggle with for the rest of this run. They ask, why is Spyro purple?
Oh, well, that is a good question. Allegedly, it's so that he would stand out against grass. But who knows? So right there, I did another Spyro to get past the money bags check. And also, since I died, I need to go out of my way and kill an extra enemy over here. Rip. And then I'm going to do a scenery jump here to skip into the talisman room. And quote unquote save this guy since he's stuck in this room. But see, he's never really stuck because he could just walk right out like this. Alright, and again, like in Idle Springs, I was killing all of those enemies so I could get a power-up for an orb challenge. I gotta kill all of these little green spiders, they're called Draclets. You want to do it as fast as possible because they respawn. I'm not sure how long it would take you casually to do it. Oh, I almost got the last guy before he spawned another one. Optimally, you do kill that second, what ended up being my second to last one, without him spawning another one. Alright, in the next level, Skelos Badlands, there is another example of a proxy if I can get it. Although this one I am not as practiced at as the ones I've been doing so far. This one is different since it's an enemy proxy. It's the same idea as like the turtle head proxy or the sheep proxy, where you just use a hitbox that you can charge through but not glide through. When you kill an enemy, their hitbox turns into that kind of hitbox. Unfortunately, I didn't get it, so I can just do this to hop on over and start the orb challenge. This is one of the easy hard mode orbs, so I'll get 2 here. This is a pretty easy orb as the pattern is the same every time, so once you memorize it, you shouldn't fail unless something catastrophic happens.
Well done, Grant. Uh-oh.
I got it.
Thank you for helping.
And in this level, it's an example of something I forgot to touch on earlier. Oh, I missed that jump. A lot of levels in this game are designed to basically be a circle. So we can skip to the end from the beginning a lot of the time. This level is a good example. Aquaria Towers, the water level, is actually probably the biggest example because if you look at a map for the level, it would very, very much look like a circle. As well as the next level I'm going to go into, which is Breeze Harbor. It's so much of a circle that you can skip to the end without using any speedrun strats. Oh, I forgot to talk about flame charging. So, those yellow baskets, you can charge into them or you can flame them. When you charge into them, the gem will home in on you, and when you flame them, it'll just pop out. But we can trick it into homing in if we do a flame and then charge right after. So we're charging when the flame hits the basket.
Thanks for...
So yeah, this is one of the shortest levels in the run. This is one of the few levels where just the talisman is collected, in this route anyway. There is an orb you can get in that level, but it involves a death abuse and it's pretty tricky. So right here is probably the biggest sequence break in the game. It's called Climb Skip. The first part I just did there was ground to portal. It involves a wall glide to get on top of that portal and get to this side of the wall fast. And then we can use double jumps to climb along this scenery and get up here. Oh, that was 0 IQ move right there. But it allows us to skip having to buy climb from moneybags. Oh, alright. Saves a lot of time in gem routing. Here's going to be another use of this rotor real quick. Usually I try to use the rotor to get enough height so I don't have to hover. It saves us a little bit of time.
The monkeys.
I didn't get enough height though.
Just charge the tree before I get hit.
Here's another
I'll
orb
be
challenge.
able to catch the monkeys as they fall. Follow
This is
me.
another example of Hunter being not quite your ally. Because he's supposed to be your ally, allegedly. But you have to do all these things for him in order to get orbs. But you need the orbs to save the world. Like, come on, Hunter, just give it to me. this is like pretty much an auto-scroller. If it's played optimally, it's an auto-scroller.
Thanks for your help.
Hunter will sit under the trees and wait for you to drop the monkeys out of the tree on him, but other than that, it's just hitting the tree at the right time. This is another kind of circle level. You can skip that quick. Alright, now coming up is the next level, Fracture Hills. It has the second of the 3 exceptions to the talisman rule. This one is pretty interesting because we can get to where the talisman is. Kind of like in Aquaria Towers, we could get to the talisman, but in Aquaria Towers, the dude would talk to you, but just not give it to you. In this level, if you get to where the talisman is, the NPC will just not be there. There's collision loaded in, but like the rest of the stuff, like graphics and talk boxes, isn't there.
Thank you.
So because of that, in order to get to the talisman, we have to actually do the casual way, which is to free all of these satyrs that are entombed in stone. Save a little time there by flaming the satyr while I'm gliding. As soon as you hit them, you lose control, but if you're gliding, you don't need to control to move forward. Spyro just automatically goes forward.
It's great.
So that's a good way to get a little bit of speed or distance. Speed up the run. Here's another sequence break to get this orb. This is one of the orbs that there are plenty of them, where you just have to talk to this NPC, kind of like the talismans, and they'll just give you the orb. The developers didn't expect you to be able to talk to that NPC without having to complete the orb challenge. So they basically made talking to that NPC the check for the orb challenge.
Yeah, great. Just
Alright,
keep
here's a
those
cool sequence break.
earthscapers away from me and
So
I'll
this would
take
be an
this
auto-scroller.
potion to Halter.
You have to headbutt these guys and get them out of the way for this alchemist. But since we know the pattern, we don't have to follow the alchemist around and headbutt them as he goes. We can just hit him right away. And then after we get him in the right spots, what we do is save the last satyr, and then we get the talisman in the remaining time that he spends walking around.
Now that
Oh, hi.
And then once this orb is finished, it'll just teleport us back here.
Man,
And I jump there before pausing it because it prevents... You can jump in between the text boxes there, but you can't pause it. So it's just a little bit of optimization. Alright, this next level is Magma Cone. It's one of the few examples of RNG in this run. True RNG, other than the second boss fight. That's at the end of this homeworld. There is a easy hard orbs pair that we do in here because it's pretty fast, even though it is RNG. Alright, I have to glide over that part there because you're actually meant to drop through there and then climb out, but we don't have climb. So if you fall in there, you'll just get soft locked for the level and you have to exit and re-enter.
Ace!
Oh, dang. So yeah, the RNG here is these little popcorn crystals. They pop up randomly. So in order to do this level fast, good movement and awareness is crucial.
Okay.
Even though it is RNG, you can get like free RNG where you'll be able to basically chain along a
I'll
bunch of
give you a-
popcorn from like one hole to adjacent holes. I've gotten chains as long as like 4 or 5. Oh, I got robbed there. But there are some ways that you can try to mitigate the RNG factor just by like making sure you have high awareness. You can watch Hunter because if he's running, he's always running towards the popcorn. Oh, this is right here. Oh! Just one more. There we go.
You're really...
Oh, minus that gem. I think it's fine though. For this category, the gem routing is extremely lenient. More so than any category other than the high-level routes for any percent where you don't need to collect any gems. Well, it's kind of impossible to be lenient on gem routing at 100% because you have to collect all of them. So for this orb challenge, we have to grab these rocks and shoot these guys in the party hats. If you, in 100%, you get an infinite fireball power-up right away, and that makes this challenge really easy. But for this, it's actually kind of hard. Aw, dang. Wait, where is it? I'm going to be doing a cool sequence break here. I think I have just enough fly power up. Alright, nice, got it.
Thanks.
So what I did there is I hit the last guy with a rock, and then did what's called a super fly jump, which is you hold down and then you do a double jump. And if you have the super fly power up and you do that, it'll send Spyro way up in the air. And we can use that to get to the top of the volcano, which you're supposed to do with climb. But since we're at the top of the volcano anyway, it just is like, oh, it's time for the talisman. So it sucks us out of that orb dialogue right away, which is fine because as soon as you start orb dialogue is when it awards
No
the
one's
orb to
been
you.
through that portal in years. I thought I'd never find a sucker. I mean, you're a shrewd customer, Spyro.
Oh, so yeah, Moneybags kept talking there after I skipped the text box. I can't remember if that's the first time I've gotten that in this run, but it's nice because it lets you hear what the dialogue is, because they're skipping it most of the time. I believe it also means that you skipped the text box on the first possible frame. Oh, I missed this tree.
Spyro,
Whoops.
if you charge or flame the bush,
So this is the
one
third
of those
example of the
berries will drop.
abnormal talisman levels. So this level is actually an auto-scroller. The dude that is eating these berries and breaking down the barriers is a talisman NPC. So we need to get him to the end of the level before they give us the talisman. And at the moment, we do not have any sort of workarounds for this. So we just flame the berries and then use that time to gather up gems. Because we're going to need to buy another level right after this one.
Spyro. Thanks for helping.
So now that I've talked to that NPC that activates the orb, which spawns a bunch of thieves around this area. Oh, I bonked on the ferry. That happens sometimes. Normally you have to chase these guys around with flame, but because we picked up those rocks, we can cheese it. If we jump and shoot them at it, the thieves won't run away. Normally they'd run away if you aimed or shot while you were standing on the ground. So I believe that was probably just an oversight from the devs. And this last guy we can just cut off. And then grab some gems.
Thanks for bringing.
Yeah, I have plenty of gems. The last gem check is coming up. Yeah, the only gem checks are buying Swim and then buying these 2 levels at the end of Autumn Plains. So yeah, we're going to be going through the homeworld to grab a homeworld orb again. Because like I said, these guys are extremely useful to pick up since they're just sitting around there. It doesn't really take much out of our route to go and pick them up. Just gotta fly on out to this island. And especially for this route, it's really convenient because there are 3 baskets with 75 gems total in it.
Legend. Thanks for the gems, Spyro. With all this.
So this level is one of the fun ones for me to run because it has a couple interesting jumps. It's got a nice scenery jump here at the beginning to skip about half the level by going out of bounds. And then after the talisman there's a cool jump. I'll talk about it more when I get there. So you can actually get in there and get the talisman without blowing it up, but
Wow!
for this route I blow it up because I need there to be this little ledge here to jump off of. This guy up there. Let's get up there first. Nice, got it. So that jump is called ESG jump, and it's cool because it's my favorite jump in the game. And that's because there's a little invisible wall there that, so I did a charge jump off of that tally room thing instead of just like a double jump. That's because you need to go under the invisible wall with the hover. So whereas basically every other level in this game you just want to get high enough to make the jumps. For this little jump you have to go under this invisible wall. It's pretty tricky. Alright, now since I have collected all 14 talismans, I can fight Gulp, which is the second boss.
Well done.
This is Mr. RNG for the game, pretty much. So, the RNG for this boss fight is that the things that you use to damage him just drop out. These birds come in and they drop these eggs, and then the eggs hatch and they contain what amount to random items outside of after you've damaged him 3 times. For the first time, it's supposed to be barrels. The second time it would be bombs, and the third time it would be rockets. And then after that, it's all random. But we like to get double damage phases, because that's faster. So I can get double barrels. There we go. So when Gulp jumps up and then he lands, the landing is what destroys any items that are on the ground. But like, I had hit the second barrel before he landed, so it was in the air and then didn't get destroyed. And the rockets are easy, you can just shoot one, walk up, put the next one in your mouth to get a double. It's actually possible to get triple hit phases, but those are rarer, they're more up to RNG to get them. So you saw there in that phase all three of the, I guess you'd call them weapon types. There was a bomb, a rocket, and a barrel. The bombs are kind of a double-edged sword. It's nice to get a bomb because you can use it to get like a bomb barrel or bomb rocket. And those are pretty decently fast and easy to do. Oh shit, I got damaged. But if you get triple bombs, you actually can't get a double hit. So then it slows you down a little bit. But again, that's all RNG, so you can't really control it. Okay, an interesting thing about this route is that I actually want to end without any health left. I want to end with 0 sparks. And that's because there's a neat trick I do in the next level that will crash the game if I try to do it with the little dragonfly flying behind me. Alright, that was a little slow, but I got it. So now I'm moving on to the third homeworld. Right away in the third homeworld, I'm going to be skipping to a level by going out of bounds. I'll be getting into the basically post-game area, and there are 2 reasons for doing that. One is to get an infinite fireball power-up, which allows us to break the game to an amazing degree. And the second is to get all of the abilities from moneybags. So I did a bit of scenery jumping there. That's called head bash skip. That allows us to skip paying moneybags and get to the second area. And then I'm going to do some more scenery jumping here to get out of bounds. And this will allow me to get into the end of level or the end of game area. Since it's inactive right now because it's the end of game area, but all inactive portals are just stored out of bounds underneath where they would go when they are active. So if we can get out of bounds, generally we can get to them. Oh, I missed it. There we go. Alright, nice, good camera. So yeah, this trick is pretty finicky because the camera will move and then stay stuck in whichever place it gets at. Alright, so I did that out of bounds swim so I could get the infinite fireball power up and also get the access this theater area early. The theater allows you to watch any cutscene in the game, and we use it to watch the final cutscene that plays after you beat Ripto, who is the final boss. And for some reason, just watching that cutscene at all makes it so that all the money bags in the game are gone, which give you all the abilities. And because of that, you can now get a couple of orbs pretty quickly. And with the help of Fireball, it makes it so that all these levels, which would be pretty tricky to navigate with Flame due to strong enemies, are now extremely trivial. So this level, Metropolis, is interesting because one of the orbs I do at the end is on a cycle, and it's kind of a global cycle. It's global for the level... Oh, well, I've messed it up. So we'll see if I still hit one. But you can load and unload different parts of the area at the end of the level. So depending on how fast you go, and like if you stop at some spots, the 3 UFOs that you have to shoot down will be in different spots.
Excellent work.
You want to get them lined up so that you can hit all 3 of them quickly and without having to get this power up at the end. So I got a first one there. Oh, I might be able to do this. Damn. Uh-oh. Oh, I got zapped. Yeah, so my cycles were off there because I missed that ladder. have no idea where this last guy is going to be now. Oh, there he is.
Ah,
So this is the end of level orb person, like I had mentioned earlier. For this
Excellent
last
work.
homeworld, since you have to collect orbs to be the final boss instead of talismans, all the end of level things are orbs.
I knew it.
And because this second part always spawns the same, it's a lot easier to get the cycle.
Nice flying.
Yeah, we'll be getting pretty much all of the orbs from the levels here because we have Fireball and it makes them really easy to get. With the exception of one orb in the next level because it's basically like a fetch quest and it's really slow. So there's another homeworld orb I grabbed. It's basically on our way to this level, so it's really convenient to get. So in this level, normally you'd have to kill a lot of enemies. There are 2 levels, and they want you to get this spring power-up that allows you to... It pops you up and progresses you to the second level, but we can just double jump on this fountain and get there right away. So I actually passed the end of level orb dude there, but I'm not going to talk to him yet because I can use him for something real quick.
What?
So I shot those 2 kangaroo-looking things. Those are the thieves. They stole Basil's spark plugs. That's the orb quest, is to kill all of them. And when you shoot one, it activates this cutscene and you can't move in it. By pausing it and unpausing it, you can skip the cutscene, but that's a little bit slower than just using the end of level orb to eat that time up. So here's where we use head bash. Oops. Alright. Get that orb there and then get back into this half of the level. So again in this level, we have to use a power-up, so I'm killing a lot of enemies. It's unfortunate really that we have to use a power-up because for most of the time, once you get Fireball, it makes all the power-ups invalidated other than the infinite flight. Oh, there we go. But there are a couple parts of the orb challenge that we can't complete with the Fireball. So these pumpkins, we can hit with the Fireball, but there are a couple barn doors that the farmer has that cannot be defeated with the Fireball.
My field?
Get over here. So one thing I didn't mention about the enemies that you need to kill to get the power-ups is that these little particles you see flying around, they come out of the enemies, and they actually need to reach the power-up before you can use the power-up. So you saw right there that last one hit it, and then I was able to use it. So we can use that time that the particle's been flying around to fireball 2 of the pumpkins, and then finish the orb pretty quickly. And now I have 40 gourds, so I can fight the final boss. So, because we have fireball, it makes, well, it wouldn't make all the bosses a joke really, especially Gulp. But it makes the final boss particularly much of a joke because it would be like RNG, and it would actually be hard if we didn't have fireball. But because we have fireball, we can damage the boss without needing to pick up any of the power-ups that are dropped in the arena.
Spyro, we want.
So I'm just gonna beat the crap out of him real quick. Whoops. So I was mashing pause there. I shot that fireball before the cutscene, so it would have hit this second phase of the boss. You can also do it to snipe the third phase of the boss, but I'm not going to do it because I want to have this cutscene play out. There's a specific part of the cutscene that's funny. Look on the right side of the screen, Hunter is going to fall into lava and die. Goodbye, Hunter. That's what you get. Alright. So this third phase of the boss is actually played as intended. Just gotta hit him with the fireballs while he moves around. For the last part, he goes around there a little bit, but we can get 2 quick hits. Oh, I missed it by getting smacked. Time's coming up when he loses health. And time. That was time. No problem. Alright.
Yeah, you probably ended up with a 52-44 or 43.
Yeah, something like that. It's not a big difference.
I don't think we can ever thank you enough, Spyro.
Yeah, so this is the
suppose you have
cutscene
to
we
go
would have
now?
seen if I didn't
Yeah, I
skip
better. They'll be missing me
the
in the
theater
Dragon
cutscene.
Worlds, and I've still got a vacation to take. I need it more than ever now.
Before you go, I think that Moneybags has something he wants to give you.
I most certainly do not.
Hunter?
I think I probably have time to Tunnel of Love, I guess. I don't know.
Spyro, Moneybags
How
is
did
very
the
sorry
Tunnel
that
of
he
Love
made you pay
incentive
so
do?
much on your way through Avalar. We want you to keep the gems as a reward for helping us.
Wow, thanks. Sparks, can you grab them?
Let me just type in the new coordinates and there! Spyro, you can now go to Dragon Shores.
Hey, why don't you guys come with me? I bet you could use a holiday.
I'm afraid we can't, Spyro. Ripto may be gone, but he caused a lot of damage during his short stay. We'll be cleaning up for weeks. Just
Gotcha.
remember, though, that you can...
Oh, I already skipped it. I was just gonna donate $15 afterwards. Alright, so I'll skip into this again. Alright, so even though I've beaten the boss, we don't actually have access to this. We need like 55 orbs and a bunch of gems.
Free, free, free. You pay no money down and make no monthly payments. In return, I'll give you 1 token. 1 is all I can give, but you can ride as many times
So
as
you're
you like.
supposed to do all of these different activities in this Dragon Shores area. And once you have 10 tokens, you can watch the
Hop
theater,
aboard,
but we
my
just did it
friend.
before anyway. And then the gimmick for this Tunnel of Love ride is that you hop in alone and then you end up with some random NPC. So I like the Brother Monks from Colossus. Let's see if we get one of those. Oh, we got a fawn.
promised, here's your 1 token. When you have 10, try visiting the Dragon Shores Theater.
There you go. Here's a ton of love. Alright, I think that's all I have, so. Oh, I guess I have shoutouts, I guess. Shoutouts to the Spyro community, especially any Spyro streamers whom I peppered with questions when I was first getting involved in the game, because I would just fiend Spyro streams, and then if I saw a single thing I didn't understand, I would ask about it at least 2 or 3 times. Alright. Thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, thank you for running.
Alright. See you. Peace.